Salve, Mika, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Vergil's third Eclogue, lines 21 through 27. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a long one today. But first, last time in Vergil's Eclogue, here is our rubric, everything we look forward to. Here is our rubric, everything we looked for as we go through the text. Let's get started. On mihi cantando victus non rederet ille, quem mea carminibus meruisset fistula caprum, si nescis meus ille caper fuit, et mihi damon ipse fatebatur sed redere posse negebat. Cantando tu illum, aut unquam tibi fistula cera iuncta fuit, non tu in triviis indocte solebas tridenti miserum stipula desperdere carmen. So if you recall what happened previously, you had Menalcas here claiming that Demoitas had stolen Damon's billy goat. And now we have Damon's reply. Our first word is a untranslatable word, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put TSA on, not for the kind of useless security force in the airport, but more of a exclamation, as it's used in Latin sometimes anyway to show indignant response. So it's an indignant that to me. And then cantando, note we have the nd here of a gerund with the o being a dative or ablative. So this is probably going to be by singing. And then victus is the fourth principal part of winco. US right there for a nominative singular masculine, probably referring to Damon himself, though it could be going to ille, which is also nominative singular masculine. Taking a look for main verb, we don't have anything over here, but we do with rederet. Since we have the ere of the infinitive with a personal ending t right there, we know that we have the third person singular off of the present stem, therefore imperfect, active, subjunctive verb. And the green and yellow's comment about this is that it's possible that either this verb or the next subjunctive that we'll see, one of them was pulled into that mood by the other verb. But getting back to here, cantando, this is a dative or ablative. We already have the dative here, and rederet once a dative, so that would be mihi as the indirect object of rederet. So we can't take cantando as the indirect object. So instead it really must be the ablative, so a ablative of means, based on the meaning of it, singing. So ablative, singular, neuter, gerund, and I don't remember now when is the distinction between gerund and gerundive, as one of them can be masculine and feminine and the other one can't. So if I've mislabeled it as a gerund when it should be a gerundive, I'll leave a note probably here. And then victus going with ille, it doesn't make much sense because that one might not return to me. But with what the rest of what Demoitas is going to say, victus can't apply to ille because Damon, if ille is referring to Damon, did not win. But we'll see that Demoitas himself did. So I'm going to put a comma here. What would this be? A parenthetical? So then, to me, that one did not return or might not return. And then we could almost say, although I am the victor by singing. Although we'll just say by singing, having been victorious. Or But then this is the problem with victus. Because technically it should be having been defeated, because it's a perfect passive participle of winco, which is I conquer. But it is used, at least from what I remember the times that I've run across it, it is used to say just the one who won, not the one who was defeated. It would be pretty weird for Vergil to break the standard, at least the standard that I'm aware of. So maybe I've only seen the minority, but it'd be weird if he were to say that he were to intend this as Damon having been conquered, especially since Demoitos hasn't explained that yet. But anyway, I'm going to treat this as Damon himself. Moving on into our next line. The green and yellow again has a note about quem, saying it's possible that this is a causal word. So because of which, still being taken as the object, or something like that. I'm not really sure what they intend. But moving forward, no verb, and then here we have meruiset. We have the ISSE of the perfect infinitive form with a personal ending, telling us then that this is the third person singular pluperfect active subjunctive. And now that we have this one, I'm wondering, maybe this is a subjunctive because it's a sort of indirect question, or could be that this one is the subjunctive due to the quem introducing an indirect question. Quem can be used to introduce an indirect question, though typically if you're going to use a relative pronoun, it'll be the interrogative form, so I would want there to be quid rather than quem, but it's not a hard and fast rule. Meruiset means to merit, as it sort of looks, or deserve. So, which mea, should probably handle that next. This can't be the subject, as fistula is, or no. Correction. It could be that fistula is the subject here, because fistula is a feminine, isn't it? Taking a look ahead at this, yeah, I think it is a nominative singular feminine or ablative singular feminine, which means it could be taking this as its verb, which would then be my pipe merited quem, em, as I said, accusative singular masculine, then referring all the way up here to caprum, another accusative singular masculine, caper, capri. This is the billy goat again. My pipe, my flute, merited which billy goat. And then carmenibus with ibus, so yeah, nominative singular feminine, nominative singular feminine. Green and yellow may have had a note about that, but I don't remember it now. Pipe. Carmenibus is songs, melodies. But we've got, this would be ablative of means or ablative of instrument. It's not a thing you can tangibly hold, so means would probably be a better way of describing that. All right, so there's that. Now to explain why the question mark is here, I think what solves this is that, yeah, this one is the indirect question. So which billy goat with songs my pipe merited? The direct statement would be my pipes merited the billy goat, just lacking the which. Connecting this clause, might that one not restore? So we would want to change might in that one's position, that it fits a better question. So he's saying that his pipe won, but that guy, Damon, did not restore it to him, though he ought to have. And he's setting this up as basically a accusation against Menalcas that, yeah, I did this, so why didn't he do this? I think. Anyway, moving on. See, if nescis, is right there, from nescio, nescire, and io, we don't have any change to the stem or anything between the I and the S, so this is a present stem, second person singular, active and indicative. And this is do not know. If you do not know, meos ille, meos does not own demonstratives, so instead we have to go over to caper, masculine nominative singular, referring back to meos, referring forward to that, and then ille, also another masculine nominative singular. Ille would be the subject of fuit, and then caper meos as the predicate. So if you do not know, that is or has been my billy goat. Et to me, damon. Since there is no ending after the N, this is going to be a nominative singular masculine Greek form. Remember that this is an omega nu, so a third declension there. Damon ipse, himself, another nominative singular masculine. Fatebatur, bat as the ending of fateo, I want to say is the verb. Bat, therefore, imperfect with UR, passive. And fatebatur means to admit, to grant. So, and to me, Damon himself admitted. Sed, radere, ERE, so present, active, infinitive. And pose, another present, active, infinitive. Should immediately tell us that something different is going on. Negabat, BAT for another imperfect, but this time the active. This means to deny. It has to take an infinitive as its object. So then it has to be one of these two. So he denied, to return, to be able. Now that doesn't make any sense. Denied, to be able, to return, which again doesn't make much sense in English. So then what we need to do is we need to ask what sort of clause needs an infinitive after negabat's own infinitive. And a good solution is the indirect statement. The only thing that we're missing from the indirect statement is a subject. But with subjects in Latin, in inflected languages, you don't have to actually have them in the sentence so long as the context can tell you who it would be. And looking at the very previous clause, we have ipse right there, which is an unnecessary demonstrative itself, an unnecessary demonstrative pronoun, which then should tell us the emphasis in here is on Damon himself. Therefore, the implication is that Damon is also the subject in here, especially since he's doing the negabat, which then means to say, proper English, sorry, which is then to say that pose should be the object of negabat, and pose is taking the indirect clause, which consists only of the one word redere, with an assumed ipsum. So there's all of Demoitos' sentence. I've moved indirect statement over pose rather than redere because of how I had to translate it. Moving on into Menalcas' response, we've got cantando again. That's going to be the same gerund or gerundive, so I'm going to leave that as is. Two, nominative, singular, common, and then illum, you, the m there, accusative, singular, masculine. It would have to be illud if it were neuter. And the question is, to whom or to what does illum refer? Does it refer to Damon or does it refer to the capper? Is Menalcas surprised that Demoitos owns a goat, or that he, by singing, was victor over Damon? It makes more sense for Damon, I think. So, referring to him. Out, or introducing a question. I don't think there's anything special going on here. Quam, adverb, ever. Tibi, dative singular, don't need to parse that. Fistula, kera. Fistula, which we saw before. Kera is the word for wax, and it is also feminine with fistula. But since we have fistula here in the either nominative or ablative, probably means that kera is the ablative, especially since, is it this? I think it's the previous eclogue we saw Corydon talking about his wax-bound reed pipe, and I don't remember if he used fistula for that, but kera and then juncta is exactly what he used, so kera here and juncta here are probably ablative. This is a perfect passive participle, which makes sense. The fistula having been bound, or no, this one can't be ablative because it needs to modify fistula. This one is the only one that's ablative. It's the ablative of, well, I don't think substance is a thing. So instrument, I guess, and feminine. But that's our nominative, singular, feminine subject. Nominative, singular, feminine, perfect, passive participle. And then fuit, as we've seen before, perfect of sum esse fui. And it's just Menalcas denying that Damon ever had such a pipe. And here we come to the most devastating burn by Menalcas against Demoitos. Non tu in triviis, not you, subject again, prepositional phrase taking the ablative. We could almost say of place, triviis. Indocte with that E is one of those interesting vocative substantives, which are not typical, except when you're talking about a crowd of a certain type. But no, this is to specific, it would have to be an adjective, because doctos, docta, doctum, with in negating it. Doctus, of course, meaning educated one, so uneducated one. All that to say, can't be part of the prepositional phrase here, so close that off. And this is plural with the is. This comes from trivia, so feminine, I believe. So then that brings up the question, what is a trivia, or really a triviae, since it has to be plural by its nature? Well, it translates directly to three ways. So we could think of a roadway with, like not fork in the road, because that's two paths to take. Whatever you call the four corner option for turning. But that's not what Menalcas means. Instead, the green and yellow indicates that this is a term for vulgar ditties. So hickish music. Indocte, as I've already said, unskillful one. Moving on into the rest of the clause, solebas, as with the B tells us this imperfect tense, second person, singular. Moving on to the next line, stridenti, inti there is the present participle ending, so strido, stridere, I don't think it's strideo, but there's not really any way to tell without my lexicon right here. Have that, I do not. I as well has to be dative or ablative. Ins, intis, inti, inte, or inta. This needs to modify something. Take a look ahead. Miserum no. Stipula possibly. Stipula is a grain stalk. It's feminine, so that A could be an ablative with studenti. Studenti, I should probably say, means like the buzzing of bees, or the croaking of frogs, or the whistling of reed pipes. This perdere is an infinitive, so that can't go with studenti. And then Carmen is, of course, a noun in the neuter, nominative, or accusative singular. Can't be nominative. We already have a verb here. Solebas needs to take an object, so Carmen is that object. Accusative, singular, neuter. Well, then what do we do with all of the rest of this? Well, take a look at miserum, um there, matching Carmen, so this could be its adjective. Disperdere, solebas means to be accustomed. One has to be accustomed to an infinitive, which we find right here. Oops. This means to murder, to ruin. So you were accustomed to murder music, songs. Then we just have stipula and studenti. Miserum can't with studenti, so studenti must be on stipula. And then we have two things going on in this final line. One, I didn't notice, the green hat and yellow had to tell me that. The other one is, it's not a chiasm. Then we would have ABBA set up. Instead, we have the interlaced setup, which is the silver line, I wanted to say. So capital A, capital B for a different type of object, lowercase a, C, lowercase b. Whatever that poetic setup is. I really should have brought my Vergil textbooks with me. Oh well. I'm now going to write down the translation of this and get back to you, and we can enjoy this terrible bird. There we have that. Let's take a look at it in its own context. To me, Victor, by singing or playing music, that one might not restore, or that one restore, which billy goat with songs my pipe merited. If you don't know, that was my billy goat, and Damon himself admitted to me, but was denying that he was able to restore. By singing or playing music, you beat that one? Or was there ever to you a pipe joined with wax? Were you yourself not in Vulgar ditties, O unlearned one, accustomed with creaking grainstalk to murder wretched song. Ouch. Not only is Menalcas dissing Demoitis' ability to play music, he's even dissing the instrument he uses, saying that Demoitis had to get the make the noise with grain stalks. So I don't really know what that would look like or how that would work. It used to be that some people I knew could pluck a blade of grass, stick it between their thumbs, then blow through it and get this sort of high-pitched buzzing noise. It wasn't really a whistle. It's been a long time. Maybe he means something like that. No, I doubt it. Anyway, this is Absolute Murder by Menalcas. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at it has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Wale. Sorry, one other note I forgot in the midst of speaking is that in this last line, there is also a bit of onomatopoeia with all the S's and the R's. So I'm going to actually put that in bright red to note how I missed it originally. But this is a note from the green and yellow. What's wrong with this pen?